2, 1. Hi, it's me, Mr. Yates, back at it again with another video from the bunker. So, I hope you're all ready for this video. Welcome back. Obviously, we've been off for our Easter break. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I did absolutely nothing. Got very bored and couldn't wait to come back to this. So, hair's grown, beard's grown. Stuck with it, aren't we? So, welcome back. Let's get on with it, shall we? So, that one. Ooh, it's all over the place from earlier still. So, new topic, new term, new topic. As always, we finished The Tempest now. Woo! Hope you enjoyed watching the video I made you watch for the final lesson of term last time. I was going to say last week. It wasn't last week. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that one. So, 10 questions. As always, answer the questions on the screen. If you haven't put a message in the chat and I don't know who you are, then send me an email and I know you're watching, and then you'll get some house points for watching along live. So, date Tuesday the 14th of April 2020. Woo! Who is Frankenstein is your title. So make sure you write your date and title in your books on the piece of paper, typing it up, whatever you're doing to record your work, and then answer the questions on the screen. So true or false, Frankenstein was originally a comic book. Number 2, which script do we read before Easter? Number 3, what is a noun? Number 4, what is an adjective? Number 5, what is a verb? Number 6, what is an adverb? Number 7, correct and mistake. I like Mr. Yeats the bestest. Number 8, list 3 characters from The Tempest. Number 9, what is the difference between there and there? And number 10, what is the difference between your and your? 5 minutes. Time starts now. Answering the questions on the screen. Off you go. Yeah, 1 minute left. 1 minute. Okay, that is your time up. Let's go through the answers now. So, where am I? What screen am I on? This screen here. Okay, so make sure you've got all the answers in your... Oh, I've broken it. There we go. All the answers in your book. Make sure I've got no emails. Right, perfect. Make sure no one sent me anything on the chat. Perfect. So, let's go through the answers. Number 1, true or false? Frankenstein was originally... Oh, wrong one. Was originally a comic book. That is false. Frankenstein was not a comic book originally, although it probably has been converted into a comic book since, because quite a lot of things have. So that is false. Number 1 is false. Number 2, which script did we read before Easter? The answer to that question is The Tempest, written by William Shakespeare. Hopefully you've all remembered it and watched that lovely video I made you watch for the last lesson. Number 3, what is a noun? A noun is a person, place, object, or thing. Number 4, what is an adjective? It is a describing word for the noun. Okay, it's the describing word for the noun, so it describes the noun. Number 5, what is a verb? Okay, what is a verb? It is a doing word, an action word. Mr. Yates was running. Mr. Yates lives in a house. Lives is an action word. What is an adverb? It's a describing word that describes how the verb is being done. So, Mr. Yates quickly ran out of the bunker. Mr. Yates slowly wrote the answers down. Number 7, correct the mistake. I like Mr. Yeats the bestest. Obviously, you can't have bestest. It would be I like Mr. Yeats the best. Okay. Because it is a superlative, which means it's the most or least or something, or the most extreme of something, or the least extreme of something. So you can't have two est. You've already got best, so you don't need bestest. You can't have biggestest, okay? Or the mostest is another example of it being incorrect, okay? So I like Mr. Yeats the best would be correct. Number 8, list 3 characters from The Tempest. You have loads to choose from. You have Miranda, Prospero, Ariel, Caliban, Trinculo. Any of those, 3 of them in the book, got it right. Number 9, what is the difference between there and there? So, that sounds weird when I say it. Obviously, you can see on the screen the spelling. There, over there, means look over there. It's something of distance, okay? So you say here, right here, over there, something far away, something in the distance is not near you. It's third person. And there is more personal, someone's belongings, okay? Their bag, their shoes, their house, their car. I don't know, I've lost track then. Number 10. What is the difference between your and your? So again, it sounds weird when I say it. So the first your house, it's similar to there, isn't it? Your house, your car, your laptop, your work, that type of your personal pronoun. And is it pronoun? Oh well. Yeah, we'll go with that. And you're with the apostrophe. You are is the way I think of it. So think of 2 separate words. You are. So you're amazing. You're smelly. You're the best person I know. Something like that. Okay. So you are amazing. You are smelly. You are the best person I know. Okay. So that's how I remember that. So add up your scores. Find out if you got them all right. Just to go through it really quickly. Number 1, false. Number 2, the tempest. Number 3, person, place, or thing. Number 4, describing word of the noun. Number 5, an action or doing word. Number 6, the describing word of the verb. Number 7, I like Mr. Yeats the best. Number 8, 3 characters from the Tempest, you can do that. Number 9, there is like over there. There is someone's personal belongings, something that belongs to them. Number 10, difference between your and your house, your car, your belongings, and you are. This is another way to think of it. So add up your scores out of 10. Send me a message. Let me know how you did with that. Send me an email if you want. Then you get house points. Only got 2 people in house points and 4 people watching. So here we go. Today. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Minimize that. What have I done? I've broke it. Today, we'll be looking at who is Frankenstein. Okay, looking at who is Frankenstein. Thank you for doing that, laptop. Who is Frankenstein? 9 out of 10, well done. 9 out of 10, really good. Well done. So who is Frankenstein? Obviously, we've not looked at Frankenstein before, so we don't know who that person is, or who Frankenstein is, or what Frankenstein is. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that. Oh, didn't want that one. Fun. Learning objectives. To understand what happens before Victor's experiment succeeds. Interesting. Sounds complicated, but we will learn. And to develop an understanding of the character of Victor Frankenstein. Again, interesting. We'll learn some more. On target, completing all activities to the best of your ability. Above target, completing all activities to the best of your ability and attempting to complete the extension and challenge activities. So big picture for today's lesson, who is Frankenstein? Vocab focus, narrative, and chalet. And there's a picture. Well, who's it a picture of? We will wait and see. Hopefully. If this decides to work. There we go. Didn't think it was going to happen on that. Go back. So, there's 2 images there. Very difficult ones, actually. What is the link between the 2 images? What is the link between the 2 images? That first one you may have done in science. You may recognise that picture from science. Think about it. And the second picture, hopefully recognise it. So, going to give you some time to do this. Going to turn that one on. Okay. 3 minutes. Time starts now. Talk in the chat, maybe. That would help you. 3 minutes. Your time starts now. So what links the 2 images? What are the links between the 2 images? What are the links between the 2 images? Want to make sure I've got no emails. Perfect. Okay, so what links the 2 images? Have about 1 minute left. 1 minute. On 1 minute left. Sorry, I had my microphone off. 1 minute left. 1 minute. 1 minute. There we go. Time is up. So, time is up. What links these two images? I'd be really interested to hear your answers, as I get loads of messages from, yeah, Miss Adam. Hello, Miss Adam. What links these two images? So the two links between these two images are, well, you tell me. No one sent me an email. No one's told me anything. So what links these two images? I'll tell you, save you some misery. Obviously, you could say they both have eyes. There we go. Let's start off with that. They both have eyes. And then we can take it a little bit further. They are portraits. Lovely answer there. Well done. Really good answer. They are both portraits, okay? They are both portraits. Great answer. They're both pictures. They're both, I don't know, maybe you got a better answer than me. Here's how they're linked, okay? I don't know if it is on the next slide. We'll find out. We'll find out. Wait and see. You joining with me? No, it's not on the next slide. So, this is an image of a very, very famous sheep. This sheep is called Dolly. I forgot of a sudden then. Sort of Dolly? I think it's Dolly. Dolly the sheep. Now, Dolly was the first ever animal. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen. Got confused then. First ever animal to be cloned. Okay, so they're called test tube sheep. And basically, they took the cells out. Magic. Ask your science teacher. Ask Mr. Thompson. I don't know who your science teacher is. Ask your science teacher. Put it in a test tube. Bam. Baby sheep. Test tube babies. So they were made in a test tube. And also Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster, which we're going to go into in a bit more detail later on, was also created by a person. So they're both created by a human being. Okay, they were both created by a human being. Really fun fact. It's Dolly. Yes, it is Dolly. Well done. Well done. Really great answer. Oh, see, you're smarter than me, you lot are. God, can't have that, can I? So, moving on. It will move on in a minute. There we go. Which of these images meets your expectations of Frankenstein? Which of these images do you think is most like Frankenstein? We have this one here. Is he what you imagine Frankenstein being like? Is this one what you imagine Frankenstein being like? Maybe it's this one. The weird eyes. You can't really see it on the screen. Or is it this one? This one's an interesting one. Doesn't actually have a picture of Frankenstein in the monster, but has two people in it. Is that what meets your expectations of Frankenstein? Which one meets your expectations? Maybe it's the one in the corner. This happy-looking Frankenstein. Which one meets your expectation of Frankenstein? I think most of you think of, when you think of Frankenstein, I know I do, I think of green, and you have the thing through the neck and the head, someone sent the first picture, lovely, okay? The nail, and you think something like that. Okay, it's quite a lot of black and white images, isn't there, as well? But the green always comes to me when I think of Frankenstein. Yep, same there, okay? Fourth because it's green and ugly. See, I know you type ahead before it turns up as well. You should be like, oh, I was thinking that, sir. Well done. Okay, so the first one or the fourth one because of the green, or the one down the corner. Yeah, I would agree with you. That's what I think of. So, this is really important, really difficult to get your head around, but we're going to go through it and we're going to try our best to get our head around it in the best way we can. So, before we start reading Frankenstein, it's important we understand how the story is told to us, okay? There's three different characters' narratives. Okay, we'll go back to that later on. Narratives that this story is told from. Captain Walton, Victor Frankenstein, and the monster. Okay, so it's framed in a very different way than we are used to. So, the novel starts with a series of letters written by a character called Captain Walton. Okay, Captain Walton is an explorer who is on a polar expedition. Okay, so there's an image of what maybe Captain Walton Looks like if this lockdown lasts any longer, I could look like Captain Walton in not very long time. Underneath, I don't know what that's a picture of. Bit creepy, isn't it? Again, obviously, there's an example of a polar expedition there. So Captain Walton is an explorer who is on a polar expedition. The novel is set in the 18th century, so the 1700s. It's set in the 18th century. Walton's expedition would seem incredibly ambitious. It is long before the first successful expedition to the North Pole in 1831. So he wants to go on a polar expedition. Not many people do that in these days of the time. So what does this suggest about Walton, and why does Shelley use him to tell the story? Ooh, difficult questions. So what does this suggest about Walton? So is he like an ambitious person, and what is it? Why does Shelley being the author, use him to tell the story? 4 minutes. There you go. Time starts now. Any questions? Just email me or put a message in the chat and I will answer it for you. So all the information you need is on that page. Think about, what does this suggest about Walton, Captain Walton? And why does Shelley, the author, use him to tell the story? Interesting. Okay, I've got 2 minutes remaining. 2 minutes. Just make sure my camera isn't frozen. 2 minutes. Okay, I've about a minute remaining now. 1 minute remaining. Okay, about 30 seconds. 30 seconds left. Okay, that is your time up. So pens down. Make sure you've answered the question to the best of your ability. So, what does this suggest about Walton? I'll get rid of that one and put. Oh, that. There we go. I want that one gone. There we go. So, what does this suggest about Walton? What does this suggest about Walton? I think it suggests that he's ambitious, that he's scientific, that he's interested in nature and the world and science. That's what I would have put. Something along those lines. I'd love to know what your answers are. We'll go back to that one once you've typed them up and sent them to me or emailed them to me. And then number 2, why does Shelley use him to tell the story? Very ambitious, well done. Okay, why does Shelley use him to tell the story? Probably because he has an interesting point of view. He understands he's an interesting person. He's exciting, isn't he? Everyone loves an explorer, engages the audience, the type of character he is. Why does Shelley use him? I guess we'll find out more as we go on. So, why does Shelley use him? He's ambitious. Nice answer, well done. Oh, better not open a hyperlink. There we go. The letters. So, the play begins. The play is not a play. Oh, there is a play version. Maybe we'll do that one day. Okay. The novel begins with a series of letters, as I've already said. So, what we're going to do is read the beginning of the story and the letters that are in it. So, as I'll just set up my visualizer, we'll read the letters to start off with. Quite a few letters. Here we go. Let's go to that one. They should all be ready to go. There we go. See, Mr. Yates is a genius at times, just not always. Oh, got an email. I'll check that one before we start reading. Like that. There we go. It's a bit blurry in it. We'll go like that. If that focuses a little bit. Right, I'll read it out so you can follow along the best you can. So don't worry if you can't completely read it. Thank you. The person just sent me an email. Let me know that they're watching. Thank you. Say, I'll make sure your house points go on. Yeah, I've already somehow knew that you were watching. So, here we go. Letter 1. Splotch, 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 splotch. To Mrs. Saville, England, St. Petersburg, December the 11th, 17. Then a dash. Interesting. Trying to see if I can get the focus a bit better. Nope. They'll have to do in it. Sorry about the blurriness. But just listen along. You will rejoice to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement of an enterprise which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. Wow, what a sentence to open with. You're probably like, okay, so you rejoice, be happy to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement, so nothing bad has happened on this trip which you've regarded with such evil forebodings. So something you weren't keen on me doing. I arrived here yesterday, and my first task is to assure my dear sister of my welfare and increasing confidence in the success of my undertaking. I am already far north of London, and as I walk in the streets of Petersburg, I feel a cold northern breeze play upon my cheeks, which braces my nerves and fills me with delight. Do you understand this feeling? Did you get what I'm on about? Rhetorical question there. Quite nice, isn't it? Sorry, I was reading the chat. This breeze, which has travelled from the regions towards which I am advancing, gives me a foretaste of those icy climes. Inspirited by this wind of promise, my daydreams become more fervent and vivid. I try in vain, to be persuaded that the pole is the seat of frost and the desolation. It ever presents itself to my imagination as the region of beauty and delight. There, Margaret, the sun is forever visible. I get really annoyed by the fact that I can't. Oh well. forever visible, its broad disk just skirting the horizon and diffusing a perpetual splendour. There, with your leave, my sister, will put some trust in preceding navigators. Their snow and frost are banished, and sailing over a calm sea, we may be wafted to a land surpassing in wonders and in beauty every region hitherto discovered on the habitable globe. Habitable globe, I'm good with that. Its productions and features may be without example, as the phenomena of the heavenly bodies undoubtedly oh, are in those undiscovered solitudes and those undiscovered wonders, like joys. What may not be expected in a country of eternal light? I may there discover the wondrous power which attracts the needle and may regulate 1,000 celestial observations that require only this voyage to render their seeming eccentricities consistent forever. I shall satiate my ardent curiosity with the sight of a part of the world never before visited, may tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of a man, to someone that no one's ever been before. These are my enticements, and they are sufficient to conquer all fear, danger, or death, and to induce me to commence this laborious voyage with the joy a child feels when he embarks on a little boat with his holiday mates on an expedition of discovery up his native rivers, being compared to like being a child exploring something. A child exploring something for the first time. But supposing all these conjectures to be false, you cannot contest the inestimable benefit which I shall confer on all mankind, to the last generation, by discovering a passage near the pole to those countries, to reach which at present so many months are requisite, or by ascertaining the secret of the magnet, which, if at all possible, can only be effected by an undertaking such as mine. So the secrets of the magnet obviously being magnetic pole. Okay, the magnetic pole. These reflections have dispelled the agitation with which I began my letter, and I feel my heart glow with an enthusiasm which elevates me to heaven, for nothing contributes so much to tranquilize the mind as a steady purpose, a point on which the soul may fix its intellectual eye. This expedition has been the favourite dream of my early years. I have read with ardour the accounts of the various voyages which have been made in the prospect of arriving at the North Pacific Ocean, through the seas which surround the pole. You may remember that a history of all the voyages made for purposes of discovery composed the whole of our good Uncle Thomas's library. My education was neglected, yet I was passionately fond of reading. These volumes were my study day and night, with them increased that regret which I had felt as a child on learning that my father's dying injunction had forbidden my uncle to allow me to embark in a seafaring life. These visions faded when I pursued for the first time those poets whose effusions entranced my soul and lifted it to heaven. I also became a poet, and for 1 year lived in a paradise of my own creation. Quite interesting fact there. Maybe that's another reason Shelley's used him. Who knows? I imagined that I also might obtain a niche in the temple where the names of Homer and Shakespeare are consecrated. Okay, so you want to be find somewhere special where no one else has actually written before. You are well acquainted with my failure and how heavily I bore the disappointment, but just at that time I inherited the fortune of my cousin, and my thoughts were turned into the channel of their earlier bent. 6 years have passed since I resolved on my present undertaking. I can, even now, remember the hour from which I dedicated myself to this great enterprise. I commenced by inuring my body to hardship. I accompanied the whale fishers on several expeditions to the North Sea. I voluntarily endured cold, famine, thirst, and want of sleep. I often worked harder than the common sailors during the day, and devoted my nights to the study of mathematics, the theory of medicine, and those branches of physical science from which a naval adventurer might derive the greatest practical advantage. Okay, so he prepared himself for this trip by going on these little trips in the hope that he'd feel better when he went on this trip. Twice I actually hired myself as an undermate in a Greenland whaler and acquitted myself to admiration. I must own I felt a little proud when my captain offered me the second dignity in the vessel and entreated me to remain with the greatest earnestness, so valuable did he consider my services. And now, dear Margaret, do I not deserve to accomplish some great purpose? My life might have been passed in ease and luxury, but I preferred glory to every enticement that wealth placed in my path. Oh, there's some encouraging voice dun, 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 would answer in the affirmative. My courage and my resolution is firm. My hopes fluctuate. So they go up and down, they fluctuate. And my spirits are often depressed. I'm about to proceed on a long and difficult voyage, the emergencies of which will demand all my fortitude. I am required not only to raise the spirits of others, but sometimes to sustain my own when theirs are failing. This is the most favourable period for travelling in Russia. They fly quickly over the snow in their sledges. The motion is pleasant, and in my opinion, far more agreeable than that of an English stagecoach. The cold is not excessive if you are wrapped in furs, a dress which I have already adopted, for there is a great difference between walking the deck and remaining seated motionless for hours, when no exercise prevents the blood from actually freezing in your veins. So, fur coats, big fur from animals to keep the body warm. I have no ambition to lose my life on the post road between St. Petersburg and Archangel. I shall depart for the latter town in a fortnight or 3 weeks, and my intention is to hire a ship there, which can easily be done by paying the insurance for the owner, and to engage as many sailors as I think necessary among those who are accustomed to whale fishing. I do not intend to sail until the month of June, and when shall I return? Ah, dear sister, how can I answer this question? If I succeed, many, many months, perhaps years, will pass before you and I may meet. If I fail, you will see me again soon, or never. Farewell, my dear, excellent Margaret. Heaven shower down blessings on you and save me, that I may again and again testify my gratitude for all your love and kindness. Your affectionate brother, R. Walton. So that is the first letter. Let me know what you think. Send me an email. Say, oh, that was a boring letter. Well, that was a really interesting letter. Or what does this mean, sir? I didn't quite get that. So let me know what you think while I get a swig of drink, because I did a lot of reading there, and need to stay hydrated, kids, don't we? I mean, not hydrated, then what can be bad, can't it? So, hopefully you're all keeping up. I know that keeps dropping out a little bit of the stream, but hey, modern technology and all that, it's going to keep doing that. So, here we go. Letter number 2. Letter 2, not number 2, just letter 2. Letter 2. Light. Don't think you're Scouse. To Mr. Saville, England, Archangel, 28th of March 17th. So we've moved from St. Petersburg to Archangel now, or Archangel. Depends how you want to pronounce it. How slowly the time passes here, encompassed as I am by frost and snow. Yet a second step is taken towards my enterprise. I have hired a vessel, and am occupied in collecting my sailors. So I've hired a boat, and now I've got sailors with me. Woo! Those whom I've already engaged. Thank you for the round of applause. Those who have already engaged appear to be men on whom I can depend, and are certainly possessed of dauntless courage. But I have one want which I have never yet been able to satisfy, and the absence of the object of which I now feel as the most severe evil. I have no friend, Margaret. When I am glowing with enthusiasm and success, there will be none to participate my joy. Just thought I'd check my emails in case it was one of you. It wasn't. So, sorry. There'll be none to participate my joy. If I am assailed by disappointment, no one will endeavour to sustain me in dejection. I shall commit my thoughts on paper. It is true, that is a poor medium. For the communication of feeling. I desire the company of a man who could sympathise with me, whose eyes would reply to mine. You may deem me romantic, my dear sister, but I bitterly feel the want of a friend. So he's feeling a bit lonely. A bit sad, that, isn't it? I think we can all feel empathy with that. I have no one near me gentle yet courageous, possessed of a cultivated as well as capacious mind, whose tastes are like my own, to prove or amend my plans. How would such a friend repair the faults of your poor brother? Poor brother. I am too ardent in execution, too impatient of difficulties, but it is still a greater evil to me that I am self-educated. For the first 14 years of my life, I ran wild on a common and read nothing but Uncle Thomas's books of voyages. At that age, I became acquainted with the celebrated poets of our own country. It was only when I had ceased to be in my power to derive its most important benefits from such a conviction that I perceived the necessity of becoming acquainted with more languages than my native country. So I learnt some more languages. Now I am 28, and I'm in reality more illiterate than many schoolboys of 15. It is true that I have thought more, and that my daydreams are more extended and magnificent, but they want, as the painters call it, keeping, and I greatly need a friend who has sense enough not to despise me as romantic, and affection enough for me to endeavour to regulate my mind, to control my thoughts. While these are useless complaints, I shall certainly find no friend on the wide ocean, or even here in Archangel, among merchants and seamen. Yet some feelings, unallied to the dross of human nature, be even in these rugged bosoms. My lieutenant, for instance, is a man of wonderful courage and enterprise. He is madly desirous of glory, or rather, to word my phrase more characteristically, of advancement in his profession. He is an Englishman. Ugh. Englishman, and in the midst of national and professional prejudices, unsoftened by cultivation, retains some of the noblest endowments of humanity. I first became acquainted. Oh, got a bit stuck there. I first became acquainted with him on board a whale vessel. I lost my place then because I looked at the screen and looked in there. Finding that he was unemployed in the city, I easily engaged him to assist in my enterprise. The master is a person of an excellent disposition, and is remarkable in the ship for his gentleness and the mildness of his discipline. This circumstance, added to his well-known integrity and dauntless courage, made me very desirous to engage him. A youth passed in solitude, my best years spent under your gentle and feminine fosterage, has so refined the groundwork of my character that I cannot overcome an intense distaste to the usual brutality exercised on board ship. I have never believed it to be necessary. When I heard a mariner equally noted for his kindness of heart and the respect and obedience paid to him by his crew, I felt myself peculiarly fortunate in being able to secure his services. I heard of him first in rather a romantic manner from a lady who owes to him the happiness of her life, to his partner. This briefly in his story. Some years ago, he loved a young Russian lady of moderate fortune and have amassed a considerable sum in prize money. The father of the girl consented to the match, so the father approved of this match. He saw his mistress once before the destined ceremony, but she was bathed in tears, and throwing herself at his feet, entreated him to spare her, confessing all the same time that she loved another, but that he was poor, that her father would never consent to the union. So she wanted to marry someone else, but he is too poor. Quainted. Lovely. Quainted. What does quainted mean? What does quainted mean? Let's Google it, shall we? I can't really explain it. So quainted. Quainted. Quaint means attractive, unusual, attractively unusual. So unusual, old-fashioned, quaintantly. So old-fashioned. Great question, well done. Or acquainted. Sorry, acquainted is like acquainted, getting to know someone you have an acquaintance who's not sort of known well to acquainted, getting acquainted with someone. Okay, so you're getting to know someone. Oh, who's my acquaintance? It means you don't know someone well, then getting acquainted is something you need to get to know. Lovely question. He is mistress once before the never consent to the union. My generous friend reassured the suppliant, and on being informed of the name of her lover, instantly abandoned his pursuit. He had already bought a farm with his money on which he had designed to pass the remainder of his life, but he bestowed the whole on his rival, together with the remains of his prize money to purchase stock, and then himself solicited the young woman's father to consent to her marriage with her lover. But the old man decidedly refused, thinking himself bound in honour to my friend, who, when he found the father inexorable, quitted his country, nor returned until he heard that his former mistress was married according to her inclinations. What a noble fellow, you will exclaim. He is so, but then he is wholly uneducated, he is silent as a Turk, and as kind of ignorant carelessness attends him, which, while it renders his conduct the more astonishing, detracts from the interest and sympathy which otherwise he would command. Getting to the end of this letter now. Yet, do not suppose, because I complain a little, I can conceive a consolation for my toils, which I may never know that I am wavering in my resolutions. Those are as fixed as fate, and my voyage is only now delayed until the weather shall permit my embarkation. So, I'm only delayed for as long as the weather's bad. The winter has been dreadfully severe, but the spring promises well, and it's considered as a remarkably early season, so that perhaps I may sail sooner than I expected. That's difficult to say. I shall do nothing rashly. You know me sufficiently to confide in my prudence and considerateness whenever the safety of others is committed to my care. I cannot describe to you my sensations on the near prospect of my undertaking. It is impossible to communicate to you a conception of the trembling sensation, half pleasurable and half fearful, with which I am preparing to depart. I am going to unexplored regions, to the land of mist and snow, but I shall kill no albatross. Think about Harry Potter for albatross, okay? Therefore, do not be alarmed for my safety, or if I should come back to you worn and woeful as the ancient mariner. You will smile to my illusion, but I will disclose a secret. I've often attributed my attachment to, my passionate enthusiasm for, the dangerous mysteries of the ocean to that production of the most imaginative of modern poets. There is something at work in my soul which I do not understand. I am practically industrious, painstaking, a workman to execute with perseverance and labour. See what that email is. Okay, perfect. But besides this, there is a love for the marvellous, a belief in the marvellous, intertwined in all my projects, which hurries me out into common pathways of men, even to the wild sea, and unvisited regions I am about to explore, but to return to dearer considerations. Shall I meet you again after having traversed immense seas, and returned by the most southern cape of Africa or America? I dare not expect such success, yet I cannot bear to look on the reverse of the picture. Continue for the present to write to me by every opportunity. I may receive your letters on some occasions when I need them, most to support my spirits. I love you very tenderly. Remember me with affection, should you never hear from me again. Your affectionate brother, Robert Walton. So he's suggesting there that he may actually never return. We've got a few more letters to go yet. 2 more letters to go. 2 more letters to go. Letter 3. Okay, let me have a drink a minute again, because a lot of reading, so I need to have a drink, otherwise I get thirsty and dehydrated. Any questions, send them in to me. So, letter 3. Letter. Just think how normal people say it. Letter 3. To Mrs. Saville, England, July 17th, 17 something. My dear sister, I write a few lines in haste to say that I am safe and well advanced on my voyage. This letter will reach England by a merchantman now on its homeward voyage from Archangel. More fortunate than I, who may not see the native land perhaps for many years, I am, however, in good spirits. My men are bold and apparently firm of purpose, nor do the floating sheets of ice that continually pass us, indicating the dangers of the region towards which we are advancing, appear to dismay them. We have already reached a very high latitude. I've lost my place. But it is the height of summer, and although not so warm in it as in England, the southern gales which blow us speedily towards those shores which I so ardently desire to attain breathe a degree of renovating warmth which I had not expected. No incidents have hitherto befallen us that would make a figure in a letter. One or two stiff gales and a springing of a leak are accidents which experienced navigators scarcely remember to record, and I should be well content if nothing worse happens to us during our voyage. Adieu, my dear Margaret. Be assured that for my own sake, as well as yours, I will not rashly encounter danger. I will be cool, persevering, and prudent. But success shall crown my endeavours. Wherefore not? Thus far I have gone, tracing a secure way over the pathless seas, the very stars themselves being witnesses and testimonies of my triumph. Why not still proceed with the untamed yet obedient element? What can stop the determined heart and resolved will of man? My swelling heart involuntarily pours itself out thus. I must finish. Heaven bless my beloved sister. So, final letter. Final letter. It's quite a long letter. Final letter. How many more letters is final letter? See? See, I can think ahead. Final letter. Letter 4. To Mr. Saville, England, August the 5th, 17. So strange an accident has happened to us that I cannot forbear recording it. Dun, dun, dun. Although it is very probable that you will see me before these papers can come into your possession. Last Monday, July the 31st, we were nearly surrounded by ice, which closed in the ship on all sides, scarcely leaving her with the sea room in which she floated. Our situation was somewhat dangerous, especially as we were compassed round by a very thick fog, so we couldn't see anything, so it was a thick fog. We accordingly lay to, hoping that some change would take place in the atmosphere and weather. About 2 o'clock the mist cleared away, and we beheld stretched out in every direction vast and irregular plains of ice, which seemed to have no end. Some of my comrades groaned, and my own mind began to grow watchful with anxious thoughts, when a strange sight suddenly attracted our attention, and diverted our solicitude from our own situation. Can't miss the eights read. We perceived a low carriage, fixed on a sledge and drawn by dogs, pass on towards the north, at the distance of half a mile. A being which had the shape of a man, but apparently of gigantic stature, sat in the sledge and guided the dogs. We watched the rapid progress of the traveller with our telescopes until he was lost among the distant inequalities of the ice. This appearance excited our unqualified wonder. We were, as we believed, many hundred miles from any land, but this apparition seemed to denote that it was not, in reality, so distant as we had supposed. Shut in, however, by ice, it was impossible to follow his track, which we had observed with the greatest attention. About 2 hours after this occurrence, we heard the ground sea, and before night the ice broke and freed our ship. Phew, so they're free, they were stuck, and now they're not anymore. We, however, lay to until the morning, fearing to encounter in the dark those large loose masses which float about after the breaking up of the ice. I profited of this time to rest for a few hours. In the morning, however, as soon as it was light, I went upon deck and found all the sailors busy on one side of the vessel, apparently talking to someone in the sea. It was, in fact, a sledge, like that we had seen before, which had drifted towards us in the night on a large fragment of ice. Only one dog remained alive, but there was a human being within it whom the sailors were persuading to enter the vessel. He was not, as the other travellers seemed to be, a savage inhabitant of some undiscovered island, but a European. When I appeared on deck, the master said, "Here is our captain, and he will not allow you to perish on the open sea." On perceiving me, the stranger addressed me in English, although with a foreign accent. "Before I come on board your vessel," said he, "will you have the kindness to inform me whither you are bound?" You may conceive my astonishment on hearing such a question addressed to me from a man on the brink of destruction, and to whom I should have supposed that my vessel would have been a resource which he would have exchanged for the most precious wealth the earth can afford. I replied, however, that we were on a voyage of discovery towards the northern pole. Upon hearing this, he appeared satisfied and consented to come on board. Good God! Margaret, if you had seen the man who thus capitulated for his safety, your surprise would have been boundless. His limbs were nearly frozen, and his body dreadfully emaciated by fatigue and suffering. I never saw a man in so wretched a condition. We attempted to carry him into the cabin, but as soon as he had quitted the fresh air, he fainted. We accordingly brought him back to the deck and restored him to animation by rubbing him with brandy and forcing him to swallow a small quantity of alcohol to wake him up. As soon as he showed signs of life, we wrapped him up in blankets and placed him near the chimney, or as you say in Cornwall, the chimney, of the kitchen stove. By slow degrees he recovered and ate a little soup, which has restored him wonderfully. 2 days passed in this manner before he was able to speak, and I often feared that his sufferings had deprived him of understanding. When he had in some measure recovered, I removed him to my own cabin and attended on him as much as my duty would permit. I never saw a more interesting creature. His eyes have generally an expression of wildness and even madness, but there are moments when, if anyone performs an act of kindness towards him or does him service, his whole countenance is lighted up, as it were, with a beam of benevolence and sweetness that I never saw equalled. But he is generally melancholy, so sad to know it from my vocabulary, and despairing, and sometimes he gnashes his teeth, as if impatient of the weight of woes that oppress him. When my guest was a little recovered, I had great trouble to keep off the men, who wished to ask him 1,000 questions. But I would not allow him to be tormented by their idle curiosity in a state of body and mind whose restoration evidently depended upon entire repose. Once, however, the lieutenant asked why he had come so far upon the ice in a strange vehicle. His countenance instantly assumed an aspect of the deepest gloom, and he replied, "To seek one who fled from me." "And did the man whom you pursued travel in the same fashion?" "Yeah." "I fancy we've seen him. But the day before we picked you up, we saw some dogs drawing a sledge with a man in it across the ice." This aroused the stranger's attention, and he asked a multitude of questions concerning the route which the demon, as he called him, had pursued. Soon after, when he was alone with me, he said, "I have doubtless excited your curiosity, as well as that of these good people, but you are too considerate to make inquiries. Certainly, it would indeed be very impertinent and inhuman in me to trouble you with any inquisitiveness of mine, and yet you rescued me from a strange, perilous situation. You have evidently restored me to life." Soon after this he inquired if I thought that the breaking of the ice had destroyed the other sledge. I replied that I could not answer with any degree of certainty, that the ice had not broken until near midnight, and the traveller might have arrived at a place of safety before that time, but of this I could not judge. From this time a new spirit of life animated the decaying frame of the stranger. He manifested the greatest eagerness to be upon deck to watch for the sledge which had before appeared, but I persuaded him to remain in the cabin. For he is far too weak to sustain the rawness of the atmosphere. I have promised that someone should watch for him and give him instant notice of any new object should appear in sight. Such is my journal of what relates to this strange occurrence up to the present day. The stranger has gradually improved in health, but is very silent and appears uneasy when anyone except myself enters his cabin. Yet his manners are so conciliating and gentle that the sailors are all interested in him, although they have had very little communication with him. For my own part, I begin to love him as a brother, and his constant and deep grief fills me with sympathy and compassion. So he's upset. I love him. He must have been a noble creature in his better days, being even now in wreck so attractive and amiable. I said in one of my letters, my dear Margaret, that I should find no friend on the wide ocean. Yet I found a man who, before his spirit had been broken by misery, I should have been happy to have possessed as the brother of my heart. I continue my journal concerning the stranger at intervals, should I have any fresh incidents to record. So I'm just going to keep updating it, and I'll send it to you. August 13th, 17th.
My affection for my guest increases every day. He excites me, wants my admiration and my pity to an astonishing degree. How can I see so noble a creature destroyed by misery without feeling the most poignant grief? He is so gentle yet so wise, his mind is so cultivated. And when he speaks, although his words are cold with choicest art, yet they flow with rapidity and unparalleled eloquence. He is now such recovered from his illness and is continually on the deck, apparently watching for the sledge that preceded his own. Yet, although unhappy, he is not so utterly occupied by his own misery, but that he interests himself deeply in the projects of others. He has frequently conversed with me on mine, which I have communicated to him without disguise. He entered attentively into all my arguments in favour of my eventual success, and into every minute detail of the measures I had taken to secure it. I was easily led by the sympathy which he evinced to use the language of my heart, to give utterance, to give vocalization, to give words, the burning ardour of my soul, and to say with all the fervour that warned me how gladly I would sacrifice my fortune, my existence, my every hope, for the furtherance of my enterprise. Getting there. One man's life or death, but a small price to pay for the acquirement of the knowledge which I sought for dominion I should acquire and transmit over the elemental foes of our race. As I spoke, a dark gloom spread over my listener's countenance. At first I perceived that he tried to suppress his emotion. He placed his hands before his eyes, and my voice quivered and failed me as I beheld tears trickle fast from between my fingers. A groan burst from his heaving breast. I paused. At length he spoke in broken accents. Unhappy man, do you share my madness? Have you drunk or so the intoxicating draught? Hear me, let me reveal my tale, and you will dash the cup from your lips. Ooh, he's going to tell the story. Such words, you may imagine, strongly excited my curiosity. The paroxysm of grief that had seized the stranger overcame his weakened powers, and many hours of repose and tranquil conversation were necessary to restore his composure. Having conquered the violence of his feelings, he appeared to despise himself for being the slave of passion, and quelling the dark tyranny of despair, he led me again to converse concerning myself personally. He asked me the history of my earlier years. The tale was quickly told, but awakened various trains of reflection. I spoke of my desire, finding nearly there, final few pages. We'll get there. So my desire finding a friend of my thirst for intimate sympathy with a fellow mind that had ever fallen to my lot, and expressed my conviction that a man could boast a little happiness who did not enjoy this blessing. I agree with you, replied the stranger. We are unfashioned creatures, but half made up. If one wiser, better, dearer than ourselves, such a friend ought to be. Do not lend his aid to perfection our weak and faulty natures. I once had a friend, the most noble of human creatures, and am entitled therefore to judge respecting friendships. Friendship, sorry, not friendships. Friendship. You have hope and the world before you, and have no cause for despair. But I have lost everything and cannot begin life anew. As he said this, his countenance became expressive of a calm, settled grief that touched me to the heart. But he was silent, and presently retired to his cabin. Even broken in spirit, he is. No one can feel more deeply than he does the beauties of nature, the starry sky, the sea, and every sight afforded by these wonderful regions seems still to have the power of elevating his soul from earth. Such a man has a double existence. He may suffer misery and be overwhelmed by disappointment, yet when he is retired into himself, he will be like a celestial spirit that has a halo around him, within whose circle no grief or folly ventures. Will you smile at the enthusiasm I express concerning this divine wanderer? You could not if you saw him. You have been tutored and refined by books and retirement from this world, and you are therefore somewhat fastidious, but this only renders you the more fit to appreciate the extraordinary merits of this wonderful man. Sometimes I have endeavoured to discover what quality it is which he possesses that elevates him so immeasurably above any other person I ever knew. Honestly, we're close. I believe it to be an intuitive discernment, a quick but never failing power of judgment, a penetration into the causes of things unequalled for the clearness and precision. Add to this a facility of expression and a voice whose varied intonations are soul subduing music. August 19th, 17. Yesterday, the stranger said to me, "You may easily perceive, Captain Walton, that I have suffered great and unparalleled misfortune. I determined at one time that the memory of these evils should die with me, but you have won me to alter my determination. You seek for knowledge and wisdom, as I once did, and I ardently hope that the gratification of your wishes may not be a serpent to sting you, as mine has been. I do not know that the relation of my disasters will be useful to you, yet when I reflect that you are pursuing the same course, exposing yourself to the same dangers which have rendered me what I am, I imagine that you may deduce an apt moral from my tale, one that may direct you if you succeed in your undertaking, and console you in what I got distracted in case of failure. Prepare to hear of occurrences which are usually deemed marvellous, were we among the tamer scenes in nature, and might fear to encounter your unbelief, perhaps your ridicule. But many things will appear possible in these wild and mysterious regions, which provoke the laughter of those unacquainted with the ever varied powers of nature. Nor can I doubt that my tale conveys in its series internal evidence of the truth of the events of which it is composed. You may easily imagine that I was much gratified by the offered communication, yet I could not endure that he should renew his grief by a recital of his misfortunes. On page, I feel the greatest eagerness to hear the promised narrative, partly from curiosity and partly from a strong desire to ameliorate his fate if it were in my power. I expressed these feelings in my answer. I thank you, he replied, for your sympathy, but it is useless. My fate is nearly fulfilled. I wait but for one event, and then I shall repose in peace. I understand your feeling, continued he, perceiving that I wished to interrupt him. But you are mistaken, my friend, if thus you allow me to name you. Nothing can alter my destiny. Listen to my history, and you'll perceive how irrevocably it is determined. He then told me that he would commence his narrative the next day when I should be at leisure. This promise drew from me the warmest thanks. I have resolved every night when I am now imperatively occupied by my duties, to record as nearly as possible in his own words what he has related during this day. If I should be engaged, I will at least make notes. This manuscript will doubtless afford you the greatest pleasure, but to me, who know him, and who hear it from his own lips, with what interest and sympathy shall I read it in some future day. Even now, as I commence my task, his full-toned voice swells in my ears. His lustrous eyes dwell on me with all their melancholy sweetness. I see his thin hand raised in animation, while the lineaments of his face are eradicated by the soul within. Strange and harrowing must be his story, frightful, the storm which embraced the gallant vessel on its course and wrecked it thus. We got to the end, told you we would. Those are not the end of stories, the end of the letters. So, what's next? We've got 5 minutes left. What's next? What's next? What's next? So, oh, why is there so many? Okay, that'll be next lesson. Oh, go back. So, for the remainder of the lesson, 5 minutes. What is the effect of opening the story with letters? What have we learnt from these letters? And why do you think Shelley has started the story like this? Also, what can we infer about Walton from these letters? Okay, so the questions there for you to answer. Okay, oh, don't need to be that small. I'd be smaller, but not that small. I'm that big. So some questions for you to answer. I'll start the timer. 5 minutes. Time starts now. Answer this questions. Well, I replied to my email. Okay, about 4 minutes left. That's 1 minute, it's already gone. Get the chat up. There we go. Need another drink now after reading all that. Okay, you have about 3 minutes remaining. About 3 minutes. Okay, you have about 2 minutes left. 2 minutes. Make sure my microphone's still turned on. Yep, 2 minutes left. 2 minutos. About 2 minutes left of the lesson as well. Okay, about 1 minute left. About 1 minute remaining. One minute left. There we go. I'll come back there now. It's a challenge question as well. Don't forget, if you've done your 3 questions, about 30 seconds. 30 seconds left. There we go. Time is up. So, what is the effect in opening a story with letters? It engages the reader. It makes it seem more personal. What have we learnt from these letters? We learnt quite a bit. We learnt about the explorer. We've learnt about him discovering that other person. Why do you think Shelley has started a story like this? I go to engage the reader, to get them involved, to offer someone's perspective. Okay, I'm going to stop there because it is the end of the lesson. Okay, I don't want to drag on too much. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and all that. I want to get those subscribers. That'd be really cool, wouldn't it? Those subscribers. I think most of you have subscribed anyway. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thursday, I think I'll have you next. Is it Thursday I have you next? It is. Yeah, Thursday I have you next. However, It won't be a live lesson like this on Thursday. Unfortunately, it'll be Seneca work because I'm in the hub. So I won't be in on here. I won't be in the bunker. So I'll be gone. So you have to sort your own workout. It'll be on Seneca. Before we go, don't forget, wash your hands, all that. Stay inside. Hope you enjoyed this lesson. And I've enjoyed seeing you guys in this strange environment again. And I hope to hear from some of you again soon. Okay, bye.